Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Aimbot, weekly podcast dedicated to discussing all things video games. I'm your host, Kaif Pape, and today I'm not solo this time. I have a guest. I'm actually joined by Kamahl from YouTube, and he has his own Discord and his own podcast. So I'll just let him introduce himself.
All right, what's up, everybody? So I am Kamahl. I do run a YouTube channel sometimes. I occasionally stream on Twitch, and I do also, as Kaif said, host a Discord server, mostly revolving around Path of Exile. Oh, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, would you describe yourself as a Path of Exile content creator, or is it as well as Diablo 2 and Warframe?
Yeah, I would say primarily Path of Exile, with a little seasonings of some World of Warcraft, some Diablo 2 occasionally, Warframe on the very odd occasion that I play the game for longer than a couple hours.
I couldn't ever get into Warframe, but that's actually how I got to know Kamahl and how I got to be a part of his Discord, because just being in the Path of Exile community, and he was actually making some pretty good Path of Exile console content, because I play Path of Exile on console and he does, and there's no better place to get Path of Exile console content whenever Path of Exile is actually working properly on consoles than his server. So today we'll be discussing the PS5 experience, the Video Game Awards, and the state of Path of Exile as it currently is. But we're just going to get right into the PS5 experience, and this is where Kamahl will be giving most of his opinions, since he managed to get one. Not sure how you managed to get one that quickly, because all over the internet I'm hearing that it's sold out completely.
It is. It's sold out everywhere. So Sony, they sent me an email, and they were like, "Hey, there's an option here if you want to. You can sign up to get first dibs on a PS5 when they release. The only thing is, you've got to be ready at this time on this date and be on the server. And then if you get there, you'll get into a queue. If you're there early enough, you're there right on time when we open up queue, you should have no problems getting in and ordering one." Well, I got the email and I was like, awesome. I am a stay-at-home dad, especially with everything COVID going on. I would
a lot of us are in that position now.
No, that plays not very much of a substantial role to me because I've been a stay-at-home dad for the past few years.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I was like, I can do that. That's easy. Now, my brother, he was like, hey, I'm going to buy multiple PS5s. I'm going to buy one for you. I'm going to buy one for your son. I'm going to buy one for myself. And well, he didn't get the email and he wasn't able to pre-order anywhere else. And I was like, well, if you're going to be the one that's buying it, and then I'll just pay you back, over time, kind of like a loan payment type thing.
Yeah.
Just because it's a lot easier,
Yeah.
He's a single dude making way more money than he knows what to do with. So
it only makes sense.
Exactly. So me being the only one that had access, I was like, okay, well, I'll just get it with your information, and then you can have the first one. I don't mind waiting.
Gotcha.
Prefer to wait. I saw the fiasco with the Xbox 360s, and I was like, since then I've been really hesitant on getting a first generation console.
Well, I'm in the same boat, and not necessarily I'd rather the first batch go out, and whoever needs to experience their red ring of death, they can go and accept the bullshit. Not only that, I'd rather wait until there are more titles to actually play, because a lot of the titles now are just cross-platform. I believe besides Miles. Well, Miles is also available on PS4. Besides
Mhm.
Miles and the Demon Souls remake, there's really nothing that is just specific to next gen right now.
That's very true. And that was something I also wanted to mention. I've been kind of hesitant to come out and say it, but honestly, if you had a PS4 Pro right now, there's
Yeah,
no reason to upgrade to a
t-
PS5.
gotcha.
At least not right now. Um, Most of the games that I'm seeing a substantial change in is because I have an old PS4. I don't have a PS4 Pro.
Yeah, same here.
Any of the games that are PS4 Pro enhanced
Yeah,
are phenomenal. They look amazing. And this is on like an 8-year-old 1080p TV.
yeah.
So I'm not even getting the full experience of the 4K. So I'm like, okay, well, if it runs at 1080, my TV does. I'll just run all these games at 60 frames, and then that's
Yeah,
how
yeah.
I'll experience it.
That's a good point though, because if you're still using a 1080p set, then
Mhm.
there's no immediate reason to go out and buy, because you will not be getting the full benefit. I did the opposite, so I upgraded to a 4K HDR TV, but no console yet. And you're like in the opposite position.
Exactly. And I mean, honestly, with how the market is right now, likely depending on where you're located, 4K
Yeah,
TVs aren't really too expensive. Like I can get a 43-inch 4K TV for around $200 right now.
yeah, they're actually
Which,
not that expensive.
yeah, and I mean here in the US where I'm at,
Yeah,
$200 is like it's not that much money,
yeah. It's not that
depending
much.
on your personal situation.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm like, okay, I'll pick one up at some point
So are
because I
you
don't
planning
really.
on picking one up like within the holiday season, or is it like next year when you believe games that you actually need to see a game in 4K for it to warrant that purchase?
I think it'll be the holiday season.
Yeah.
That's gonna be like my gift to myself
Yeah,
is
yeah,
a new TV because I figure worst case scenario, I have a really nice new computer monitor
yeah.
until I get a PS5. But with the new TV, I just relocated my PS4 into my room to
Mm-hmm.
to set everything back up so that I can kind of push myself to start streaming more of the current lease of Path of Exile right now because Path of Exile is currently in a really good position on PS4.
Yeah.
Kind of unstable a little bit on PS5 from time
Oh,
to
so
time.
it's more unstable on PS5?
Yeah, there's a lot of interface lag. I've noticed that with a couple games on PS5. It seems like um, there's a bit of a rubber banding issue that they got rid of on PS4 that's more
Yeah.
prevalent on PS5. And there's also the occasional instances where you'll just freeze for a few seconds
Well,
and it just completely throws off your game, as I know that you've experienced.
yeah. Well, it hasn't been patched officially for PS5 yet. I think the only
Exactly.
games, I think Ghost of Tsushima and what else was it? There are a couple more, but majority of them are just either taking advantage of the raw power of the console, or some of them will just straight up perform strangely because they haven't been
Yeah.
patched. And
Now
I
the
don't
load
think
times.
the load times are good.
Oh man. Oh man. I can log into a character, go to my hideout, log out of that character, go, into a different character into my hideout like two or three different times in the amount of time it takes me
It
to
would
load
take to
in
load one.
on one character on
So that,
PS4.
so that means when GGG eventually patches it, mapping should be a breeze then, because you would just load into a map, provided it's actually performing stable, and just be
Oh
able
yeah.
to like cycle through, like farm a headhunter in like a couple
Mhm.
hours.
Yeah, I mean if you've got the ability like jacked to sit there and farm for farm
Yep,
those doctor cards,
that's insane.
it's
So,
it's awesome.
so what about the audio? Is there any Sony made this whole big thing about 3D audio? Do you play with headphones?
I don't normally, but now that I didn't pay too much attention, so I kind of stay a couple steps away from the big most important news. when it
Yeah,
comes to like video games and stuff like that. I like to be surprised.
that's
I like
actually
to
good.
form my own opinion on things.
Yeah.
And normally it's against the grain of the popular opinion, but I'm okay with that. It's always been that way.
And the controller, how does the controller feel?
It that actually feels amazing. Like one of the coolest things is the game that comes with the console.
Oh, Astro's Playroom.
Yeah, and I initially was kind of like, okay, that looks like a kid's game. I'm not really into games like that too much. And then I forget who it was. There's somebody in the Discord that was like, you've got to at least hop on and play the controller like setup. And I
Oh,
was like, okay, okay. I've got 45 seconds to a couple minutes to do.
yeah,
So I hop on and I start doing it, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Okay, all right. And then I start actually playing the game, and I'm like, this is really cool because it shows you all the different unique things that the controllers are capable of.
yeah,
And it's actually really impressive. Asher's Playroom was really fun flying around, or I guess swinging around rather,
yeah.
on Spider-Man feels great. You
So
can
so they
feel the
use
tension.
the triggers, the adaptive triggers for
Mhm.
Spider-Man.
Um, kind of. I'm so heavy fingered when I
Oh,
play, but you can feel like the tension in the webs as you're
oh,
swinging,
that's
like
cool.
as you reach like the peak of the outward pendulum of your swing, you can feel the webs kind of loosen and then tighten up as they're getting ready to launch you out. It feels really unique. It's something that you didn't get at all playing Spider-Man on the PS4. So I thought
And
that was really cool.
I'm actually hoping that more games actually incorporate it. Like Astro's Playroom was designed to feature the controller.
Mhm.
Spider-Man gave it's still taking advantage of the new
Yeah.
hardware. I'm just hoping that it doesn't become too gimmicky and that the developers just tack it on at the last part of development and say,
PS3 had
okay,
an
we'll
issue with
just let
that.
this.
There was some game that came out with some female character with red hair swinging around like these
I
two
remember that game. It
incredible
was,
blades, like
oh
Heaven's
my God. Heaven's Sword.
Heaven's Sword.
Heavenly
Yeah,
Sword. Heavenly Sword,
and
yeah.
that that game kind of tried to take the controller had,
Yeah.
and then after that it just kind of became a gimmick that some games would try to like. Sackboy, I think, did it pretty cool. I like the way that Sackboy did it, but it was a really goofy, fun, silly game. Most serious games, they weren't able to find a way to implement the controllers in a fun way. Whereas
Yeah.
with the PS5, I think that especially the triggers,
Yeah.
they have to find ways to work that in. It's too awesome.
To not take advantage of it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you can feel when like Asher's Playroom, when they have you go through, you can feel like you push down the trigger about halfway,
Yeah.
and it gets like you actually have to like apply force to get it to push down the rest of the way because it's got that resistance applied.
I mean, you don't play first person shooters right now, but the latest Call of Duty Cold War, I'm pretty sure they've implemented it in that in terms of pressing the trigger for different
Mhm.
guns, it actually feels differently.
Yeah, like I would really like that because I've not, as I'm sure that you're aware, I've shot a lot of guns in real life,
Yeah, yeah.
and you can tell like when you fire an AK versus an
Mm-hmm.
AR, you can tell a difference. Like you can feel it in the triggers themselves. There's different resistances. There's different, almost like driving a manual car. You can feel when the clutch engages. You
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
feel when the trigger is starting to engage. If they're
Yeah.
able to do that on PS5 with like first person shooter games, that would be insane. That would be amazing.
I think the fact that we're here discussing just the controller alone um, is a good thing, because usually when people think next gen, they just think more powerful hardware and that's it. I think Sony's approach of actually translating that into like the controller and the audio was well thought out.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it can only be a good thing as so long as persons don't try to make it too gimmicky.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
just nothing but positives.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on Xbox. They took their approach, which is just getting the most teraflops um, possible on a console. Even though I did hear that a lot of PS5 games are outperforming the Xbox games, but just to get a different take on it and to include something as simple as seemingly simple as the controller, to incorporate that into the whole experience is such a good idea.
Yeah. I really do agree. It's kind of weird, the way that the microphone is set up on the controller. That's my one complaint.
Oh yeah,
Is the microphone is right there, and when you mute the microphone, the light comes on.
yeah,
So you have
yeah.
this little orange light when your microphone's muted, which is kind of weird, but I mainly play single player games, so having the microphone button on or off doesn't make too much of a difference to me.
Gotcha. Have you checked out the Demon Souls remake yet?
I played for about 12 seconds. I killed like two or three things and then I died. My son played it for a few hours. He made it to the first boss a couple different times and died. No, he's 7 and better at Demon Souls than I am. Um,
Yeah,
I'm terrible at those games. It runs really, really good. It looks
yeah, because there's a 60
amazing.
frames per second mode as
Yeah,
well. Yeah,
yeah, that
and
60
it still
frames
looks
per
so
second.
good. Who would have thought that Demon Souls would be one of the best looking next gen games? Typically, those games are
Right?
ugly.
They really are. Like I have Bloodborne, and I'm trying to I was trying to force myself to play Bloodborne because I really like the atmosphere of the game.
Yeah, the
Like,
art style and the atmosphere is good in that
yeah,
game.
it looks really cool, and I'm playing, and my wife, who absolutely does not care about graphics at all, like to
Yeah,
her, she's still like Diablo 2 is one of the best looking games in my opinion, and I'm like, I disagree, but I see where you're coming from. Um, I mean, she's like, this game looks horrible, and I'm like, you know what? You're not wrong.
yeah, it's just brown and muddy and I don't know. The art style for all the Souls games prior to this Demon Souls remake, it's just so sword ghoulish. I'm not sure
Mhm.
many persons would look at those games regardless of how technically sound they are and write them off as just being ugly because of their art style. And um like Diablo 2 has such a timeless, it's 2D graphics or
Mhm.
sprite based graphics, but just the art style is so timeless and fantasy esque that most persons could still say to this day that it's still a good looking game. That's
Oh
why so
yeah,
many
no, I
persons
love it.
want like a straight up Diablo 2 remaster.
Yeah, I'm scared of that though.
Yeah,
Um,
why?
we'll see what Blizzard's done. Now, Blizzard did WoW Classic pretty good. I don't really have very many complaints about WoW Classic. Now, I can't speak to the raids as I'm not a raider.
Yeah,
I play WoW because, well, for WoW Classic, I enjoy the RPG elements. I like going out and grinding for 8 hours to get one level, and
yeah,
that's fun for me. Like I will sit at my computer for 16 hours straight and just kill bears and wolves. I don't know what it is about it. It's just something that I think that's one of the things that's always drawn me to ARPGs is I'll sit there
yeah.
and farm.
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
actually like grinding and farming as well.
Yeah, it's just so rewarding, and I don't gamble in real life. I don't like spending money. I don't like, risking money, but I'll spend time. Like I'll invest my time
Yeah,
in with the chance of getting something rewarding back from it. So grinding in games has always been entertaining, but I forgot why I got on that tangent, to be honest.
Uh,
What was it?
you were saying that you're concerned about the Blizzard potentially, I don't know,
Oh, yeah,
fucking
yeah,
up
yeah.
a remaster.
So yeah, while WoW Classic was done really well and it was really fun, I saw what they did with Warcraft 3. And when they released Warcraft 3,
It was a hot mess.
it was a hot mess. Now, this is from what I heard because I didn't play it, but what I did see is that it completely nuked the original Warcraft 3 servers.
Oh, it
So
did.
they released a game that was questionable at best.
Yeah,
And while they released it, they completely destroyed the
and
currently working and active servers for the game.
yeah,
And now, granted, if they were to do that with Diablo 2, there's always things like Project Diablo 2 or,
yeah, yeah.
like,
There's even the Path of Exile Diablo 2 crossover,
yeah,
Path of
Path of
Diablo.
Diablo.
Yeah,
I have both of them on my home screen on my computer. And they're both great mods, but I'm scared that if Blizzard were to go after Diablo 2 the same way they went after WoW Classic and the same way they went after Warcraft 3,
Warcraft 3.
Path of Diablo and Project Diablo 2, the proprietors, so the people that run it, would get sued by Blizzard
Yeah,
lest they shut down the servers.
yeah. I can
And
definitely see where you're coming from.
yeah, and I don't really trust Blizzard to remake Diablo 2.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
a completely different company.
Diablo 4 now is in such a troubled development state.
I completely agree.
It's I'm not even sure when that game is actually going to come out because it was supposed to come out by now. It should have been out by now. And then when they did release what they had on it, it was like not coming soon, not even Blizzard soon. So no one knows exactly when. And
Well,
go ahead.
I'm thinking probably around 2025 is when we'll get our hands on it.
2025.
I've been saying that from the beginning. I've been following Blizzard since, oh man, Diablo 2. So like late 90s. Like I was a
Yeah.
little kid when I first started following Blizzard because I loved it and there was just something addicting about their games. And it may come out sooner.
I'm
It's likely
hoping it does.
that it comes out sooner. I just see something happening where they basically wipe the board and restart like they did with Diablo 3.
Yeah. And
They've already done that with the skill trees. They just announced in the last update that they completely reworked the skill trees because it took them, 2 years to realize, oh, wait, these aren't really skill trees. These are kind of like, do you want A or do you want B?
yeah, and it's surprising that it's so difficult for them having been the one to actually almost pioneer this genre, the ARPG genre, and then to see how Path of Exile is still sustaining, has been sustaining itself for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, you even have examples of people who come in and do it completely wrong, like Wolsten. And then there shouldn't be any reason for you to be taking this long on a project that you have so much experience in, and that there's so many good examples out there and bad examples, so you can just look and know what will work and what shouldn't work, and get your community involved.
I agree. I think that there has been a big mindset shift with a lot of gaming companies because in my opinion, in my view,
Yeah,
gaming used to be about culture, but it wasn't a primary culture of life. It was a subculture. You had
yeah,
people like you may have been and like I was where gaming wasn't popular. It wasn't a big thing. It wasn't
yeah. It wasn't mainstream at all.
Yeah, but I would still sit in my room and play Gran Turismo for, 8 hours a day.
Yep. Yeah, I remember
That's
playing Gran
still,
Turismo 2,
yeah,
PS1.
it was just something about it. And I still played sports, I still played baseball, I still wrestled, I did, I still played sports and everything.
Yep.
But there was something about gaming that was just, it was an escape,
It
and it
was.
was it was active.
Yeah.
Because like I loved to read when I was a kid, but gaming gave me the option to play as those characters. Like I didn't have a path set out that I had to follow and just kind of make up the story in my head.
Yeah.
I got to actually play out that path. And so gaming was really revolutionary, and it was usually built out of passion.
It
So
was, and not like money and greed.
exactly. And now it seems like there's a lot of games that come out, like you can look at a game like Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
Stardew Valley is a $15 game, $20 game, depending. And I've invested like 600 hours into Stardew Valley. There's no additional content that you can buy. There's no additional add-ons. You just buy the game itself. Now, I've invested so much time in this game because it's a well-made game.
Yeah. It's
It's
genuinely well made.
exactly. And it's a little like 64-bit, 32-bit, whatever. I don't know the difference. I know
It's
it's color
similar
scheme.
to, it's like the sprite based version of something like Animal Crossing, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like a little Harvest Moon, you
Harvest Moon.
know?
Yeah, I remember
And
Harvest Moon on the 64. That was so good.
it's a phenomenal game. They don't want a lot of your money. And then you've got games like Path of Exile. It's another similar thing where this was a passion project. I started playing Path of Exile in 2013,
Yeah, that was
and
when it just came out, right?
it had hit open beta,
Yeah.
and my brother was check this game out. Apparently, it's what people are saying Diablo 3 should have been.
Yeah.
He knows that I'm a massive Diablo fan and that I was very disappointed in Diablo 3. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, let me see then. I make my account and I start playing, and I was like, this is actually outstanding. This is amazing. Like, it's a free to play game that is better than the game that kept me sitting on the edge of my seat for 8 years of development, of like active development, just to like rip the seat out from under me as soon as it was released, and initially get hit with the error 33 where you can't get onto the servers, and
Yeah.
then you actually get into the game and you're like, so this is Diablo in name only.
Exactly. And the thing
Got
is,
it.
back then, Path of Exile was full of issues. You used to be rubber banding like crazy,
Hmm.
and the netcode input, like everything was. It wasn't like, it didn't seem professionally done, but it was still so good. Like despite all those issues, it just
it
felt
it was amazing.
it just felt so good to play.
Yeah,
It
I
felt
mean,
like it catered to the audience completely. Like they knew what Diablo fans wanted, and this is what
exactly.
they gave them.
I mean, the game even initially started with three different difficulties. It was 3 acts with 3 difficulties.
Yep.
So farming, what is it, at Ziri at the end
At
of Act
zero,
3?
yeah, I think at zero is the most powerful boss.
Yeah,
At the
farming Merc
time.
at Ziri was that was the end game. Like if you had a build that could farm Merc at Ziri, you were considered a godly gear player. And it was a completely different ball game, but you could tell that they basically took the heart of Diablo 2 and they Frankensteined it into a monster of addiction. You know?
And look at that. That's like the perfect segue into our second topic, which is like the state of Path of Exile 2, Path of Exile now, because look at how far we've come from that. Nobody even does at Zero anymore. It's we've got Cirrus, the Elder, nobody even does Shaper anymore. They've
Yeah.
managed to consistently expand. on the universe in meaningful ways. I mean, that content is still there if you want to go out and do it, and it's still a relatively good test of any decent build. But they've managed to keep people hooked and expand the universe without changing their model at all.
Yeah, and it's very impressive. Because right now the game, I get a questionable feeling whenever I see updates, because it seems like on consoles, up until maybe about a month ago, 2 months ago, it
Yeah,
was not running well. It
it
never seemed to
wasn't.
run well. Even when it was running at its best, it was not running great.
Yeah, we still had to put up with like blue screens every now and then,
Yeah,
and a bit of rubber banding, but it was never perfect.
never ever. And I don't think I've honestly had a blue screen since maybe October.
Oh, really?
Yeah, doesn't happen anymore. Um, the rubber banding only happens on PS5 when I'm using my Cyclone Slayer that's like extremely fast.
Fast, yeah.
When I'm going through standard right now, just trying to knock out all of the maps. And so I'm running like all the tier 1s, tier 2s, all the white maps. So it's like I need to run the fastest character that I can, because I'm just going to sprint to the boss, kill him, and move on to the next one.
Yeah.
And so that happens, and occasionally I'll rubber band back, or like blight maps still seem to have an issue on PS5. PS4 it seemed to run fine.
I
But like I
actually
said,
stopped doing them outright, blight maps, so I couldn't tell you if there've been any improvement now. Because I mean, outside of the burnout that I got from PoE, part of it was just the inconsistency with performance on the consoles. So I mean,
yeah,
I'm semi back now, just playing standard, running a couple maps every now and then. But I'm officially back when the next league starts. Though I am tempted to get into Mayhem, but
Mayhem's fun. It's entertaining. I'm gonna start a new build. I started a Toxic Rain Shadow, and then I realized, I'm like, you know what? That's going to be a very, very, very extremely heavily played class.
yep, it is. It's actually the number one class right now
Yeah,
on
I'm not surprised.
PC. So yeah, so like
So
tricksters and assassins and necromancers, those are the top three right now.
so I'm probably going to start a Pathfinder. I mean, we were talking about it in Discord earlier, but a Pathfinder using Pestilence Strike. I'll probably level up through either Cobra Lash or Whirling Blades, and then switch over later on around Act 5 or 6.
I mean, because when those skills eventually came out, they didn't work properly. I think Venom Jaya was one of them that was
Yeah,
busted.
that's God.
So
I love that skill too.
I never revisited those skills, so it's probably a good opportunity to actually jump back in and try
Yeah.
something that I have. Haven't played.
Yeah, worth
So you
playing.
were saying earlier that Path of Exile is in a really good place. Is that because of the consistency and also because of like the whole three different mini leagues that we're experiencing right now with Mayhem? Was it Infinite Delve after that? Along with
Yes,
just having Heist itself.
and then a 3 week. Well, the awesome thing about the last one is it's a 3 week heist that's kind of like a mini mayhem, instead of having like 20 ghosts, or or is it 10 ghosts? Regardless, instead of having 20 or 10 additional things,
Yeah.
it'll have like between 2 and 5. So
Oh,
it's like
so
mayhem with a
Mayhem is
splash
just
of extra.
1 week, right?
No, yes, sorry. The mayhem is just 1 week. The
And then
delve,
Infinite Delve is,
1 week as well.
and then what's the third one?
And then the third one is the 3 week heist flashback that has the
Flashback
little
League.
splash of like mayhem in it.
And that would be we would start from scratch for that third one as well, like start over the
Yeah.
axe.
Mhm.
Oh, I'll jump in then.
Yeah,
I didn't even
that's a
realize
good.
that the Flashback League was a part of this league.
Yeah, it's a nice solid little 3-week mini league. That should be pretty fun. And to answer your question, yes, across the board.
Okay.
The game itself, playing the game right now, it plays fine. Now, I honestly believe that what happened is when Heist League came out, and this is my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. Heist League came out. There were some GGG developers that were like, you know what? I've got my PS4 sitting there. I'm going to start playing Heist on the PS4. I can sit on my couch. I don't have to sit at my computer. You know, I can relax. I can do whatever I may do for entertainment to relax a little bit, sit back on the couch and play some PoE. And they started playing and they were like, what the hell is this?
Has this been what everybody has been putting up with all these years?
Exactly, because it was like a week after Heist League started that all the issues we've been complaining about for the last year and a half were just gone. Just vanished. Just like they had a switch that they could hit at any point in time and they decided to just then. And that's great. You know, I'm not the kind of person to condemn someone for fixing the issue regardless of how late they fix it. They fixed it. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it sucks that it took so long, but for it to have been fixed, that's the good thing. We all benefit whenever it's fixed, right?
Exactly.
Instead
it
of
makes
them
it fun to play again.
And they really had no reason, because I'm pretty sure a big focus is probably the next two leagues, and then it's just all out focus on PoE 2, and then getting that stuff up and ready for next gen. So they didn't even have to go back to iron out anything on consoles, because their main focus should be, I'm thinking, just next gen now and PoE 2. But that speaks to how good of a developer GGG are in terms of still willing to go back to stuff and fix it and making sure that every member of their community is happy.
That's true, you know, and it took a long time.
It did.
And I will admit that there was a while there that I was feeling like, God, man, I invested like a couple $100 into this game. Like it is very, very hard to convince me to spend money on things.
Yeah.
And I bought 3 different packs for $50 a piece, and then you know, various other cosmetic purchases and microtrans. You know, I've spent easily a couple few $100s on the game.
That's a lot.
And I'm just sitting here like, why did I waste this? Like I could have invested this money on the PC, and I could have a cloth map right now. I could have a cloth map of the Atlas.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
you know, it's in a position now where it feels better. I don't regret spending that money now.
Yeah, and it's good because we made this. Well, you made this whole community around the console experience, and a lot of persons dropped off the console experience just because of how bad performance was. So this is like a refueling of the whole PS5 console community.
Exactly.
Getting back into PoE and being able to put out more consistent PoE content.
Yeah, especially with the stability, because it's very difficult. Like I'm the kind of person that no amount of coercion or payment or anything can convince me to do something that I just really don't feel like doing.
Yeah.
My mom has always had this issue with me. She's like, I could literally beat you and it would still not convince you to do something that you didn't want to do. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm not gonna do it. So when it came to the point where I'm struggling to get content, it's not riddled with issues.
Yeah.
Like like content where I'm frustrated and I'm getting angry at the game, I'm like, what's the point of this? I shouldn't be making content if it's irritating. I shouldn't be playing a game if it's frustrating me. That's the reason I don't play League of Legends anymore. If it's a stress factor, there's no point in me doing it. So I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
Now
that
that
makes sense.
now that the game is working again, it's like, okay, what kind of content should I make? Like what kind of updated videos could I make? What kind of I mean, streaming is the easiest one. You just kind of turn it on and stream.
Yeah.
It's the easiest, but it's at the same time the hardest. It is extremely difficult to get any kind of recognition through, streaming or YouTube.
I'd imagine it would be very difficult to break through. I mean, there are a couple noted PoE streamers. So to tap into like Matthew's audience or Ziz or Cute Dog or any of those other guys, it sounds like it would be extremely difficult.
It really would. And I mean, I don't know. I don't really offer the same kind of things that a lot of the other PoE streamers or YouTubers offer because I'm not like I'm not a big brain build guy.
Yeah.
I'm not super hardcore like I found 15 exalts today. I'm like, "Hey, so
Like,
this is how you reset a zone if you want to run it again because you want to run it again." It's
yeah,
like
but there's an audience for that though.
exactly. It's like I'm not I like to refer to myself as the hardcore casual, meaning I'm a very casual player that just happens to play a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I
that's
don't
good because you'll be able to pass on that. Not because you have a bunch of players that they'll always just be casual. They're
Mhm.
not even interested in going hardcore. So you will
Yeah,
still have that type of audience who wants to see that stuff. Not everybody can relate to like what's that guy's name? MBX Extreme, like farming a headhunter in 2 days and
yeah,
then gambling 50 exalts every day.
yeah. I'd be the exact opposite of something like that. Like, um, I can't stream PvP games because I get very aggressive and like I don't even necessarily really play PvP games in front of my son just because of how aggressive I get. And
Oh,
it's
it's
not
that
like
bad.
it's not like I'm out here like, screaming slurs or anything, but I'm
Yeah,
definitely cussing people out and, not over the headset or anything. I don't get in chat for PvP,
yeah.
but I'll be like, swearing at my computer and, you know, it's just like, I'm not going to stream that. Nobody needs to see me like that. I I like the ability to
Oh,
show off. Like I like everyone being like, this is what I've
yeah,
accomplished. I like the ability for everyone to show off. This is what I've done. This is the gear that I've earned. These are the bosses that I've killed. This is what I've acquired. I think that's a really cool aspect of online multiplayer games. But when I play these games, I want to do it myself. I want to
yeah,
level my own. I want to, gear up on my own. And if it gets to a game where it's like World of Warcraft, where it's like, okay, well, if you're going to PvP, you're going to be in a group. If you're going to do raids and dungeons, you're going to be in a
yeah. You're
group.
going to be in a group.
When it comes down to that, it's like, okay, well, my competitive nature kicks in. And it's like, well, if I'm going to be in a dungeon and I'm DPS, I have to be the best. If I'm not DPS, I have to be the tank because I need to be the one that knows that people are doing their job successfully. And if they're not, I can have the power to be like, hey, you're messing up, fix it.
Yeah, I guess I'm like that in to some degree. Um, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like playing like support characters and stuff like that. I'm either DPS or tank.
Yeah, I'm trying to get more into healing because healing seems entertaining and it's kind of fun to think about the fact that like everyone's life is in your hands.
It's dependent. Yep.
But when it really comes down to it and I think about my true nature, I'm a
Healing
tank.
it. yeah, healing is not aggressive enough for me. So
Yeah,
I either need to be doing crazy damage or taking crazy damage.
yeah, that's why like my healer in World of Warcraft is a disciplined priest, because the way that I heal people is I throw a shield on you. With that shield, you get a buff. I then deal as much damage as I can to the enemies, and through the damage that I deal, you are being healed.
You're being healed. That makes sense.
And like that, you're almost unkillable in PvP. Like it's just insane.
Yeah, because you're healing, but it's not as passive as like a typical healer.
Exactly.
You're like actively doing it.
Yeah, I mean, but
Um,
regardless of how geared my priest is, I still just feel so much better running in as my Death Knight with my huge, massive two-handed sword, just smacking people in the head with it. Like it just feels better. Even if I don't do as much damage, it just
it does.
feels
It does. Just the whole gameplay loop, just how it feels to control and everything. It does feel better.
very true.
Did you play Ghost of Tsushima at all?
I did. Um, I played it on both the PS4 and the PS5,
So,
and it's awesome. Really
so
good.
the Game Awards, Jeff Keighley's show, where I mean, it's not as important. Um, the reason I follow this stuff is to find out like what are some of the best games that the critics think are the best games for the year, and it's also where they release a lot of new trailers.
Mhm.
And for the Game of the Year category this year, it's Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Doom Eternal, The Last of Us Part 2, Animal Crossing, and Final Fantasy VII Remake. Which one do you think is going to take it?
Which one do I think is going to take it?
Yeah.
Man, see, it's difficult. Like if I were to say my opinion, my choice of those games, I could easily put Ghost of Tsushima as number one. Um, Now that's my own personal bias as far
Yeah.
as popularity goes. Probably say Animal Crossing
Animal
as
Crossing is fun though. I played it briefly and it's genuinely fun.
it really,
And
really is.
it can cause you to actually waste a lot of your time because it's such a time sink, but it's not a time sink in like a grindy way. It's a time sink in like a fun way. You
Yeah.
just you're just unconsciously just playing this thing without realizing that you've knocked off like 5 hours.
My wife and I ended up getting extremely competitive because we have one Switch. And so we got it on the Switch. My wife was the first one to play, so she set it up. It's her island, it's her quote unquote island. Um, we all live on it. So
Yeah.
she set it up, and finally, after like a week or so of her playing, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll try it out.
I
And
mean,
so I
oh, and
got,
then you started playing?
oh my god, dude, I invested so much time. It became such a massive time sink. Like I have this cool, really awesome, like Asian themed aesthetic of my area. Like I have my house elevated in the back far right corner, and like I have a koi pond and like all these like bamboo. And like I did this whole massive thing because I'm like, you did this to me. You caused this.
So you just went above and beyond.
Yeah, and I wasn't even like trying to be that competitive. I was just like, this is awesome. I really like the aesthetic of this.
Yeah.
Like, because it's just there's certain things that'll stick out to me that I'll see one thing and I'll be like, that everything's going to revolve around that. And it can be something as silly as like a hat. Like I think it was the rice hat. And I put it on my character and I was like, this is what my entire theme's gonna be. And like I just went I went like headfirst into crafting my little corner on the island.
Yeah, and that's the fun thing about the game. You have so much freedom to make like choices exactly like that. Which
Exactly.
other game exists out there that you can craft your entire experience around a straw hat?
Yeah, exactly. And now back to the question at hand about the Game Awards. As oh man, so where we are as a society and politically, I
Yeah.
would be shocked if The Last of Us 2 did not win.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It has such an agenda to the point where it is ridiculous. I was going to get into it as well.
Yeah, and I mean, they're subtly shaking that kind of stuff into games across the board. And now sometimes I get it. Like there was a bit of a point of contention, I guess you could say, with Spider-Man Miles Morales, where
Yeah.
at the end of the game, there's they're in Harlem, so it's majoritarily like ethnic, quote unquote, community, as
Yeah.
I guess would be the correct terminology to use. And they're kind of putting up like a human shield, so Spider-Man can do his thing and get away without, dropping any big spoilers or anything.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I know the entire story, so
yeah, and so the cops are like, "Well, who's that?" And a black guy looks over and he goes, "Oh, that's our Spider-Man." And that's something that's like that shouldn't be a point of contention. That they're in Harlem, the Harlem area. That's Harlem's like I get it. I get when they do stuff like that. It's like okay,
uh, in
that's
it,
understandable.
I don't think it was as forced in Miles though, because I
Exactly.
know exactly what you're talking about,
Hmm.
and that is one of the reasons. But it's also because, like in the beginning, they didn't really acknowledge him. Like when they were doing the whole mural, it was just the typical Spider-Man, and he was like save room on that for the other kid, right?
Hmm.
So they didn't really accept him at the point in time. It's not until like all this sacrifice that they're like, all right,
Yeah.
he's a part of us as well. So I mean, I
Yeah, and that
saw
was it's those things where sometimes like and that's a situation where it's like okay, I get it. I get what they're doing and I don't have any issues with that. I don't see why people are complaining about that.
but The Last of Us Part Two was
The
just
Last of Us.
ridiculous.
Yeah. And
I
I
mean,
tried playing The Last of Us Part 1, and it's another one of those games where like I invested like probably about 6 hours into the first like hour into the game because I am terrible at it. I just can't figure it out.
I played it, but I didn't finish it. But I know how it ends and everything. Wait, before we continue with The Last of Us Part Two, I'll just quickly go over Final Fantasy VII. I don't think it will win because it was good. I played it, but it's a remake, right? And
Mhm.
it's not the entire Final Fantasy. It's just like because they're breaking
Exactly.
it up into chapters. So it's like a chapter
It's
one experience. I don't think it's a complete enough experience for it to warrant the title Game of the Year.
I think the
That's my
best
opinion.
descriptor for Final Fantasy VII Remake is flash in the pan. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
It came out, it wasn't as hyped up as you would imagine a Final Fantasy VII Remake being.
yeah.
It was moderately hyped up
But it
in
was good though.
certain areas. And then yeah, playing the game, it was great. Now I got to a boss, like the death boss. I don't know. He reminded me of death. It's like a chariot
Hmm.
thing, like a big chariot tornado thing. I don't. It's weird, but he like beat the crap out of me like multiple times, and I was like, all right, I'll come back to this later. Yeah, that was like 4 months ago, but it was great. I mean, super fun game, but it. There's no reason to play it again. There's no replay value
Yeah,
to
there's
it.
no, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. There's absolutely zero replay value. There are a
Hmm.
few side quests to go on, but it's not something that you're not missing out on anything.
Yeah, and
The,
I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say it's the standard Final Fantasy, extremely linear.
Yeah,
You can go from point A to point B, and there might be an A.0 and an A.1 before you get to B.
yeah.
but you still have to go from A to B.
And that part of Final Fantasy VII is not where it actually opens up to the entire like open world, because
Exactly.
it's probably going to be about chapter 3 before they actually get to the open world.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's when it gets really fun. Like, but until that happens, like until they get to that point, and it depends on how they tackle it. Well, it's one of the scary things about remakes is it's like, well, it's not a remaster. Like remasters, sometimes you can trust because it's like, well, they're updating the graphics.
yeah,
But
yeah,
a
yeah,
remake, they're remaking the entire experience.
exactly.
That can be scary.
It's a delicate balancing act, because you still have to remain like faithful to the original, but you
Yeah,
can't just remake the very same concept. It probably won't work like 20 years down the line.
exactly.
It's
You
probably
know,
going to feel bad.
yeah. And that's something that I feel like a lot of I joke with my wife and I tell her, you know, a lot of the good ideas in entertainment have already been thought up.
Yep, nothing is original anymore, and that's not just games. The same thing for movies.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
what's the best looking movie on the horizon right now? To me, Dune.
oh
Dune.
yeah, 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 yeah. And it's from the series of books, which is
Yeah, that's already been made into movies
been
and like
made.
and that's like
Already.
the most like that's what I'm looking forward to right now. I couldn't even name any other upcoming movies,
Yeah,
you know?
same here. That's partly to do with COVID as well. Everything just got
True.
cancelled or pushed back. The
Yeah,
other
that's
two
true.
games on the list, Hades, that's from Super Giant Games. It's like an indie title. I never played it. I heard it's good.
I haven't
And
played it
Doom,
either.
Doom Eternal, which is more Doom. The Doom
Yeah.
remake was good, but again, that's a fun game. I just don't think it's game of the year.
It's
So I'm
not. I
with
mean,
you. I think deservedly it should be Ghosts or Animal Crossing.
mhm.
But this whole push with The Last of Us Part 2, I would not be surprised if it it wins not only this, but like other titles, other categories like best story or art direction or whatever the other categories are. I wouldn't be
Well, it has
surprised.
to. I mean, it has to because if it doesn't, then that just means that the people that host the awards are, you know, racist and sexist.
But pushing it to the point of ridicule
I'm
is where is where it just gets, it's almost mind-boggling. How can people accept this? So there's this character, for those of you listening who perhaps do not know what the big deal is with The Last of Us 2. One, they straight up made Ellie, that's her name, straight up made Ellie like a confused lesbian. So she's in this strange lesbian relationship with this other chick. And then her nemesis is this bulked up, um it should be a female, it looks like a male, this bulked up girl called Abby. Just, and these people live in a rundown post-apocalyptic environment, right? So there's like no easy access to steroids. So the initial trailers for The Last of Us Part 2, she was significantly toned down, right? They went in and they bulked her up
That's just
significantly.
so interesting.
They added more mass, more muscle
Yeah.
on her, just to for what reason, man? That's
And I mean,
for what
you can even look at females that are I mean, you can look at females like Ronda Rousey. You can look
exactly.
at
Ronda
females
is
like
not even that big, and
yeah,
Ronda is a
or
professional athlete.
that actual like powerful knockout chick, Gina. Uh, she was in The Mandalorian. She was also in. I
Oh
think she
yeah,
was
yeah,
like in
yeah, yeah.
Deadpool also.
She's still in the Mandalorian.
But
That's good.
yeah, she's got like legit knockout power. Like she's like a
Yep,
straight up fist fighter, and
yep.
even she doesn't look like that.
She doesn't know that. So we're just
No,
supposed to suspend disbelief and just accept that. Mind you, this is in a post-apocalyptic era when you have to fight for just regular survival. So she's not even eating like 10 square meals a day or anything like that.
and this
And
is
this
what
is
like
how she
10,
looks.
15 years after the initial apocalypse happened. So it's not like the apocalypse happened last year and she broke into a facility and got a stockpile
Exactly.
of steroids. All the steroids that she could find, they're all expired.
It's fucking ridiculous, man.
But it is what it is.
And the
It's
story, it gets to a point in that story where it makes no sense. So they kill off the lead male character. Spoiler alert for everyone who has not played the game. I should have said that earlier, but if you haven't played The Last of Us Part 2 by now, then you would have already been exposed to all these spoilers. So
from
they
what I
kill off
hear, they
the
had to
lead
kill him
male.
off to
Yeah.
end the toxic male patriarchy that was keeping its aggressive hold on the post-apocalyptic world.
it's 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 nonsensical, man. Some of the decisions in that game, it just makes no sense. And she even gets so Ellie gets the opportunity to kill Abby in the end. And this is right after Abby like chops off two of her fingers. So she can't even play the guitar anymore. And she just decides, I don't know, with her womanly instinct that perhaps this isn't worth it. So she'll end the cycle of violence by letting this jacked up female just go free and walk off into the wilderness. There's so much agenda pushing in this game that
What's even crazier about that is, like, I've known a lot of females throughout my life. I don't know a single female that is not like, I don't know anyone that I've met that has a feminine quality that would be like, this person destroyed my life, killed so many people that I knew, and cut off my fingers. You know what? Maybe I should just let him go.
yeah, like who
Like,
does that?
any single person I've met, even, the sweetest, like my grandma. My grandma would
Yeah.
have this lady, chained up, just torturing her for weeks.
And
Like,
the
no, no,
thing
no,
is,
you've destroyed my life.
you wouldn't even have to worry about police are getting locked up. If you
Yeah,
kill her, you just walk off scotch free. So
yeah.
there's
There's
nothing
no,
preventing you. There's no risk.
yeah. It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. But we'll see. The Game Awards are on December 10th, so we'll see exactly how that goes. Oh,
Yeah,
and Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out on December 10th as well, I believe. That's
that should
part
be
of
awesome.
why Path of Exile pushed its release back to January, by the way. They did not want to release
Yeah,
the same time,
I
which
can't
makes
blame them.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
based on
really
their
excited
business
for
model.
Cyberpunk. Um,
Are you going to pick it up day one?
I don't know. Maybe The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3, I absolutely loved. I thought it was amazing. The thing about The Witcher 3, though, is I had no idea that it existed
Oh,
until
really?
about maybe 5 years ago.
Oh,
And yeah, because I was always, like, if it wasn't World of Warcraft, League of
oh yeah,
Legends,
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
Diablo, it just didn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Um, After my Diablo 2 incident when I was streaming a lot and I got a PS4 because I couldn't use my computer anymore. Um, I was looking for RPGs because it seemed like every game that I got for PS4 was a disappointment.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, do I want to get God of War? Or do I want to get The Witcher 3? And I was looking it up, and people were like, well, The Witcher 3 will be, 100 plus hours
Yeah,
potentially.
such a time sink.
Yeah, God
Such
of
a
War
time.
3, you'll get about 30 hours out of it, or God of War rather, you'll get about
Yeah,
30
yeah.
hours out of it. And I was like, well, I sit at home and play video games all day. A 30-hour game is 2 days.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's not going to cut it. So I got The Witcher 3. And I started playing it, and the first day I played for like an hour or two, and I went to bed thinking, like, that game's all right. I mean, it seems okay. And then I got up the next morning, I did a few things on Warframe, and then I got on The Witcher 3. And then it was 10 hours later, and I was like, oh,
Wow.
I think I really like this game.
Yeah.
And so I continued to play it, and in the first 2 weeks that I had the game, I think I put about 150 hours into it. and then I just stopped playing. You know, I got the best ending that I could have ever hoped for. I looked through like all the different endings in the game after I got mine, and I was like, oh, so I got the best one.
Yeah, the good ending, the best ending.
Yeah, and I got the ending by just going through the game how I am. You know, I'm very like, you want to do that? Okay, go for it. Like that's if that's what you want to do it. I'm not your boss. Do
Yeah,
whatever you want, man.
which is such a good thing about those types of games. The
Yeah.
freedom you get, the genuine freedom of choice. I
Yeah,
mean, I
because
think
like there were
Cyberpunk is going to be.
choices, and
Go
that's what I'm
ahead.
hoping for. I said that's
Yeah.
I'm hoping that Cyberpunk is like that too. But there were choices where it's like you have like 10 different options. It's like, you know, and based on the choices that you made, you know, 50 hours prior in the game, it changes the options that you have now. And so, like, through this entire journey of me playing through the game, I get to the end and they ask me this question of, like, you know, someone wants to do something. How do you respond? Do you want to stop them? Do you want to try to? And I was like, no, just let them do what they want to do and wish them the best. Like, why would I try to control this person? Like they're grown up. I'm not their dad. I'm not, you know, like,
Yeah, yeah.
and then that ending ended up being like after it was all said and done, like a couple hours later into the game, I was just like mind blown. It all worked out. And I was like, this is amazing. So I'm
Mm.
very excited for Cyberpunk. Um, because The Witcher 3 reinvigorated the single player gaming experience for me. Like it convinced me through The Witcher 3 to play, you know, God of War, to play Days Gone, to play you know, just all these different single player games that I've played over the last few
Oh, you said
years.
Days Gone. Days Gone also got a PS5 patch. So if you play it on
Yeah.
PS5, it should be optimized for PS5.
I downloaded it, but I haven't played it yet. That's
Yeah,
something I'll probably check out because I like Days Gone. I mean, I live in Oregon. The game is based in Oregon. The game was made in Oregon.
yeah.
So, you know, I really get a kick out of it, you know, going through because I'm like, like in Oregon, everything kind of looks the same. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just these massive evergreen trees and mountains. And luckily, the past like month or two has been a lot more like Oregon than the last few years because it's been raining a lot.
Yeah.
So that's great. And so like you play the game and me being from here, play through the game and I'm like, this just like I get it because I've lived in small little mountain towns in Oregon with like less than 1,000 people in the town. And it's like that's where a lot of the stuff kind of takes place is like these small little mountain towns out in the boons, out in the middle of nowhere.
So it's very relatable to you.
Yeah, very, very much so. I mean, my wife and I will take my son out. We'll go running around like out in the woods or whatever. And my wife and my son are like way behind me. And my wife's like, how, like, why are you able to move so quickly through all this? And like my brother, who's 6.5 feet tall, like pushing 350, he's a big dude. He's just as nimble as I am out in the woods and out on the rocks and everything. And it's like, this is what, like,
Oh,
this
cool.
is how we grew up. This is what we
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
You know,
So
we run
it just
around in the
comes
woods.
naturally to you.
Yeah. You know, and it's, I don't know. I'm a very outdoorsy, naturey person, even though I spend most of my time indoors nowadays.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a very contrasting statement. Like, not I can understand what you're saying, but not many persons would, because the typical streamer is not that type of person. And for
Hmm.
someone to actually stream or game, that's like primarily what they do throughout the day. For somebody to actually feel that that person actually enjoys or is able to go out and experience the woods and jog through it, it's probably like something they can't put together as
I know
being able
it's
to coexist.
yeah, like I mean, one of my favorite things is or one of my favorite memories rather is it was about a year ago and we all went out to go swimming at this river. And I told my son, I was like, "Okay, so out here, what we're going to do." And he's 5 or 6 at the time. So just a
Yeah.
little dude. I'm like, "We're going to find some berries in the woods that you'll never find in stores. We're going to eat them. And he was just like so confused. And so I took him up in the woods and we found some huckleberries, like just little pink huckleberries. And
Yeah.
then we found some salmon berries, which they look like blackberries or raspberries, but they're orange. And I
Gotcha.
picked, like a handful of each of those and we sat there and ate them. And he loved it because like I was able to go out and be like, these berries you can eat, these berries you can eat, these ones don't ever put them anywhere near your mouth. Like just
Yeah.
showing him. Run out, I caught a salamander, which I don't know, depending on where you're from, salamanders or newts, like little water lizards.
Yeah. 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 I know.
Catch those. I've caught snakes, outside just to show them like, hey, this is a snake. It's cool, right? Do you want to touch it? Okay, now let's go put it back outside where it goes because we're not going to hurt it. We're not going to keep it. I just wanted to show you guys. Now let's take him back home.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff's just really awesome.
Good. And like the more technology evolves, the less persons are actually doing stuff like that. Most persons are like cooped up. I mean, especially now with this whole COVID situation,
Yeah.
just being able to experience the outdoors and stuff is probably something we took for granted before this whole lockdown bullshit.
Very true.
So I'm hoping that persons, once we're all able to go out and be free again, persons will actually appreciate that stuff and put greater emphasis on just genuinely going outside, getting some fresh air, not being cooped up and self-isolated all the time.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this really kind of entices people to start going outside more, exercising more. That's like it's one of the biggest issues, one of the leading causes of death, especially in America.
Yeah, especially in America.
Just the lack of health. And I mean, I used to be pretty massive. I'm not a very tall guy. I'm like 5'7", and
Mhm.
I was within the boundaries of 300 pounds a few years ago.
What?
Yeah, I was huge, man. I was massive. All I did, like, I worked at an office. I was the guy that would be like, "Hi, Kaif. My name's Corey. I'm with Diversified Consultants Incorporated. I see here that you owe Verizon $347. We can go ahead and set up a payment with check by phone, credit, or debit card, whichever works best for you." I was that guy.
Gotcha.
And so, I mean, I made enough money where all I did was I sat in an office and I ate fast food and I called people all day. And I was really lazy. I could still skateboard all right. And I could still hacky sack all right. But I was just huge. And I started noticing my son doing everything that I would do.
Oh.
And as soon as it clicked, I was like, no, nope, I'm
Yeah,
done.
you
Done
don't
with
want
this.
him replicating that at all.
Yeah. And I was just like, I have to get healthy. I have to exercise because if he doesn't if he doesn't see exercise as a normal part of life,
Yeah.
he's not going to grow up understanding that the reason that that person is in such good shape is because they work for it.
Yeah. They
And
actively work for it.
yeah, because I used to be under the understanding of, oh, well, I'm fat because my mom's fat.
No,
And
that's
then,
rubbish.
yeah, my friend Chris, he's like, when he first saw me after a couple years of not seeing me and he saw me that size, he was like, bro, you look like you ate Corey. Who the hell are you? And I was like, damn, man, that's cold.
Yeah.
But I was talking to
Sometimes
him.
that's what people need, though. The
No, and
cold, hard truth.
he knows me, the best. So he knows that being like, hey, man, you're looking a bit husky there. It's not going to do anything, you
Yeah.
know? And so we're sitting there and I'm explaining to him, I'm like, no, dude, I can't exercise a lot because I have asthma, and he's like, you can exercise with asthma.
Yep, you can.
He's like, you just can't run. He's like, you can lift weights. We have the weights. And I'm like, yeah, but like, I'm just like, it's hereditary. My mom's really fat. And he goes, being fat is not hereditary.
Yep, it's not.
Being lazy is hereditary. And I'm like, oh, Oh, okay. All right. Fair point. Fair point. And so I just started exercising, you know, and so I have a very visceral understanding of, yeah, that person's in very good shape because of the sacrifices that they've made.
And the thing about exercise is it translates to all things, right?
100%.
Exercise gives you the core understanding that you have to work for to see your gains, right? So if
Yeah.
you're in it for hypertrophy, just like building muscle, or if you're in it to lose weight or just to get fit, you have to work. There's no shortcut. There's absolutely
Mhm.
no shortcut to it. And that life lesson can be translated to the workplace or relationships. You have to work on relationships. You have to
Yeah.
work to get however far you want in whatever field you desire. So
It's true. Everything takes discipline, you know? And being an American, one of the things that I'm so sick of is because, as you know, I mean, we have people in the server from all over the world,
yep.
but I really, really detest seeing people that live in America that complain about how hard they have it. And it's like, I have never traveled outside this country. I never want to travel outside this country because I know what goes on in other countries.
Yeah,
I
you guys
know,
have it surprisingly easy.
yeah. I mean, we have we have fat homeless people.
That's that should be an oxymoron right there. That term shouldn't even
100%.
exist.
100%. I see homeless people riding public transportation with their shopping carts full of all of their goods, playing on their iPhone.
Wow.
And it's just like, I'm just like, this is America. You know, you've got people that are complaining that they deserve $15 an hour, not understanding that it's a ripple effect. Increasing
Yeah.
your pay will not make your life easier to live. It's going to make everything more expensive based on how much you increase your pay.
Yep.
It's the most simple and basic of economics. Now, I say this being somebody that I never went to college. I don't have any advanced field of study outside of culinary arts. I can cook really good. But I've been able to observe just the way that things are and the way that things are going and the way that people are reacting. And I see people wanting so much because they feel like they deserve it. And it's like you're not worth the money that you think you deserve.
Yeah.
I'm not here to go out of my way to be mean to you, but you're not worth $15. That phone that you have in
Simple.
your pocket, you probably don't need to upgrade it every year. Your internet, you probably don't need the fastest speed that you have. Your car, you probably don't need that expensive car that you drive. Why don't you dial down your personal expenses? Like,
Yeah, and then just better manage your money, man.
yeah. I mean, since my son was born, we have been a single family income. I live in Oregon where the cost of living is it's not necessarily cheap. It's not as expensive as some other places, but it's definitely not cheap either.
Yeah.
And we've been a one family income. When I was working, I was making, you know, between $10 and $12 an hour. I went and worked at Comcast Cable, worst job I ever had, and I was making like $20 an hour. That job was so bad that the $20 an hour was not enough to keep me there.
Wow.
I couldn't do it. They well, were very moralistic person, and they wanted me to lie to people to convince them to buy stuff that they didn't want or need. And I'm like,
Oh.
I cannot do that. They're like, well, you need to try to convince these people of this, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna convince Miss Jensen, who's 97 years old, to buy a security system when she's calling to have HBO removed off of her account. Can I do it?
Yeah.
Yes. Will I do it? Absolutely not. And so I ended up, you know, leaving that job even with how much money I was making. But the whole point of this is we have a 2-bedroom apartment. it costs us, we'll say, over $1,000, less than $1,500 a month for rent. That's rent alone. We have 2 cars. We have a decent amount of entertainment, consoles, electronics, computers, things like that.
Yeah.
We live extremely comfortably. We don't buy fast food. We don't buy clothes unless we need them. We don't buy expensive things, with the exception of consoles and electronics, and we splurge on collectibles. And it's not because of investment, it's because that's what we're into.
Yeah.
And
happiness.
by splurging, I mean, when I go to Fred Meyer's, I'll be like, oh, look at these 3 new Hot Wheels that I don't have yet. And so I'll spend $3, it's very, and it's like, we are able to very comfortably live. If I ever need anything or I strongly want something, I can go and get it. We have the funds to do it. And we do this on a single income.
Yeah.
And it's simply because we live within our means. Just because we make, just because you make $1,000 a month doesn't mean that you need to spend $1,000 a month.
Spend $1,000. Yeah, that's true.
People, they can't understand that. They can't comprehend the fact that, listen, you're smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. How many days are in the month? 30. Okay. How many is a pack of cigarettes? $7. You're spending $7 a day, 30 days a month. That is a lot. That's like what? It's over $200 on cigarettes.
Such a waste.
Yeah. And
such a waste.
I can't really say much. I have my own personal, vices, but it's like you can't complain. I've had coworkers that would come into work with these massive plates of food from restaurants, like $15 plates of food, and being like, oh man, I'm having trouble getting money to pay rent. And I'm like, you're eating a $15 plate of food complaining about rent. We work at a restaurant. We make food here that you can have for free. Like, I don't understand it. But I learned a long time ago that, well, I guess it shouldn't be too long ago, a couple years ago. It seems like people just don't think critically very much anymore. And it's kind of sad to see.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I experienced that. And that's not just in America, by the way. I experience that almost on a day-to-day basis where persons make certain decisions and you're like, how is that logical? How the fuck does that make sense? Yeah, you're complaining about not being able to afford all this stuff, but you're making these terrible financial decisions, and it doesn't take a genius to see that what you're doing is just fundamentally stupid.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it's confusing. I mean,
it is. I mean, I could
go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying I could go on, like, I could debate about this for hours. In fact,
yeah.
And when I actually talk about stuff like it, sometimes it gets me just frustrated because of how widespread it is, how widespread this stupid decision making is.
It really, really is.
It translates to everything, not just like how persons spend their money, but just life decisions in general. People are making such stupid decisions now. And sometimes it has such a ripple effect on the entire community.
It really does. Like, I'll have people that I've known for years and years and years that I know are very intelligent people. Like, you can ask them like some crazy abstract things and they'll have a somewhat of a decent answer and an understanding of whatever it is you may be talking about. So they're not like, they're intelligent people, but they'll read the headline to a story and they'll just be like, oh, I know exactly what's going on. And it's like, no, you don't. You have to actually, like, you have to delve deeper into subjects.
Yeah, not just be like surface level everything.
Yeah, and like, I'll put some random quip on Facebook, just like some random one line thing. And I'll get these big, massive diatribe responses simply because I didn't put, oh, by the way, there's
Yeah.
nuance in all things.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like people are unable to comprehend that when like when you say, oh, well, for example, um, frogs eat flies. Well, I have a frog, and my frog has never eaten a fly. And it's like, okay, congratulations. There's nuance in all things. I understand this.
Yeah. And
I'm
there
saying,
there'll always be exceptions.
yeah, the large majority of frogs eat flies. You are the exception, not the rule. Like, I understand that. I'm not dense enough to think that the only two things that exist in the world are 0 or 100 or
Yeah,
black
and
or white.
there's no gray area.
Yeah,
Mm.
and it's just like, I don't know, people will come at me like, "Hey, did you hear about this news story? What do you think about it?" Well, it just happened like 45 minutes ago, so I don't really think anything about it yet because we don't have all the information.
Yeah, our persons might hear like one side of a story and just instantly begin to make judgment,
Mhm.
and you haven't really gotten enough information to work with to actually make
Yeah.
any sound judgments or any sound decisions.
And it's become such a normal thing that I've seen nowadays where people they come
Yeah.
to a conclusion
Mm-hmm.
and then they work backwards from there. So they
Yeah,
come
it
to a
is.
conclusion and then they find the evidence to support their claim.
Yeah,
And
that
it's like,
even though sometimes what they're saying is complete rubbish, they'll still use it to justify their initial conclusion. And some of these persons, majority of them they're never open to like changing their minds or any objective looking at things objectively. So
it's true. I mean, you can use like an example that may or may not have already been used in actuality is Donald Trump is a Russian asset. Donald Trump works for Russia. How do we know this? Well, he has buildings in Moscow. It's like, okay, so are we just going to ignore the fact that for like 20 years, 30 years before he was president, he put up buildings all over the world? Like,
the whole Donald Trump is is a
yeah,
debate for another time, man. That
well, that's
if we
just an
start
example,
going
like
that, yeah.
working backwards from a conclusion. It's like you've got to find the evidence. If you have evidence to support something, then that's great. That's what we
Yeah,
need to go with. But
yeah.
this isn't algebra. You don't start with the answer and then find, you know,
Find the unknown.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's not how the court of law works. Now, if there's actual evidence for it, then yeah, take it to trial. Try it, do everything that needs to be done. But for whatever the subject matter is, there has to be the evidence before the conclusion. And that's just something that I see lacking. Like we're falling to the court of public opinion more often than not, it feels like.
yeah. It's definitely more widespread now. No,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I think we've strayed off topic
Yeah,
a bit.
I have a tendency to do that.
Yeah, that's fine though. I think for this episode, we've basically covered all the bases. Um, I just want to say thanks a lot for jumping on the podcast. It's only been one episode before this.
Oh
I'm
man,
not
that's
even
great.
sure if I sent you the link, so I'll send all that stuff when this gets posted to YouTube because I typically post it to the as the audio podcast first, and then I'll just upload like a still image with like a waveform and post that to YouTube as well.
Oh,
Your
awesome.
links will be in the description. Um, you can just tell people how to find you on YouTube and on Anchor.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. This is the first podcast I've ever been on. All of my podcasts have always been just me talking about
Really?
news and games and stuff. Yeah. I've never the closest thing to an interview type thing that I've ever done is interviews for a job.
Oh,
So this is a first. But yeah, no, I being as introverted as I am, I was very nervous about this beforehand, which I'm nervous about everything. I was working at the same place for 2 years, and still every day I would have like this nervous breakdown in my car before I had to go into the building and start working. As soon as you start doing it, it's fine. It's all gone.
Yeah.
But no, I had an awesome time talking to you, conversing about all this gaming, societal news, random everything. Anyways, on YouTube, youtube.com/Kamahl1319, Kamahl. And then on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/Kamahl, Kamahl_prime. I don't stream very often. I put out videos when I feel like putting out videos, which is occasionally. I'll probably end up putting out a lot more soon because I am actually playing Path of Exile more. But yeah, again, Kai, thank you. I really did have a lot of fun with you today.
Yeah, I did, and it. I didn't even expect it to last this long. It just happened so naturally. So
that's awesome.
So thanks a lot, man. And hopefully, once this podcasting thing takes off some more, hopefully we have you back here at least a couple of other times, because I love to get your opinion on not just games but overall perspectives in general. So thanks
awesome,
again
man.
for coming. And
Yeah.
I guess I'll just go straight back to your Discord now, and we'll be talking about Path of Exile.
All right, man. We'll see you over there.
All right, yeah, cool.